On a day when the war in Ukraine took center stage in Washington, at the United Nations, and in capitals overseas, a bipartisan panel of lawmakers on Capitol Hill urged the U.S. Trump administration to stand with Ukraine and against Russian President Vladimir Putin. Instead of doing Russia's job for it, as we did today, we must deal Russia a definitive strategic defeat, one that serves as a clear warning to all who would break international law and commit war crimes, said Democratic Representative Steny Hoyer, a member of the Congressional Ukraine Caucus. Over and over again, what Putin is doing is trying to recreate the failed Soviet Union, said Republican Representative Joe Wilson of South Carolina. He's not going to stop at Ukraine. According to Associated Press, in a win for Ukraine on the third anniversary of Russia's invasion, the UN General Assembly on Monday adopted 2 resolutions calling for an end to the war, while rejecting a U.S. draft that never mentioned Moscow's aggression. Instead, both resolutions make clear Russia was the aggressor. The United States, reflecting the extraordinary turnaround under President Donald Trump, joined Russia in voting against a Europe-backed Ukrainian resolution. The U.S. then abstained from voting on its own resolution after Europeans succeeded in amending it. It was a setback for the Trump administration in the 193-member world body, whose resolutions are not legally binding but are seen as a barometer of world opinion. The voting at the UN took place as Trump hosted French President Emmanuel Macron in Washington. In Ukraine, Kyiv is marking the bleakest anniversary yet of its war against the Russia invasion. The 3-year milestone drew more than a dozen Western leaders to Kyiv for commemorative events in a conspicuous show of support. Hours after the anniversary observances, Trump said Russian President Vladimir Putin would accept European peacekeepers in Ukraine as part of a potential deal to end the war.
We allow Putin's aggression to succeed, you can double our defense budget, and you'll invite more bloodshed. This we cannot do. I'm glad this is a bipartisan group. It must be, it has to be for us to succeed, to convince us that the ultimate victory remains territorial integrity, security assurances, rebuilding Ukraine, not subsidizing Putin.
This past weekend, as the world hopes and works for peace in Ukraine, dictator Putin launched 267 of Russia's largest drones against all regions of Ukraine, the largest strikes since the war began. Freedom lovers across our nation and world bow their heads in awe of the courageous, long-suffering people of Ukraine. We feel and see their hankering for liberty. We see how hard their patriots fight back.
Over and over again, what Putin is doing is trying to recreate the failed Soviet Union. He's not going to stop at Ukraine, and so it's just so important, and I take that personally as peace through strength. And so the best way to protect American families is to stop the dictators overseas, to protect and promote freedom around the world by having our allies stand firm to provide peace through strength. Thank you.
Last week, the anchor of the largest show on Russian state media said gleefully, "We wanted to saw the Western world into pieces. But Trump decided to saw it through himself." Trump is now doing our job, our being Russia, our job for us. That's what this administration is doing. And shamefully, inexplicably, America sided with a nation, Russia, that has committed war crimes by invading with no justification Ukraine. And I pray, Joe, I pray that is not the position of the Congress of the United States. Instead of doing Russia's jobs for it, as we did today, we must deal Russia a definitive strategic defeat, one that serves as a clear warning to all who would break international law and commit war crimes.
A group of Ukrainian nationals protested outside the Russian embassy in Chile's Santiago to mark the 3-year anniversary of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. According to Associated Press, it comes at a time when U.S. President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin have initiated a bilateral dialogue, marking a clear departure from Western efforts to isolate Moscow over its war in Ukraine. Obviously, we are concerned. We have military support from many countries, and right now, the United States is a crucial ally for Ukraine, said Olga Tolmakova, a Ukrainian national protesting on Sunday. Kyiv had benefited from years of staunch support by its allies in the United States and Europe, which had provided crucial military and financial support to help defend against Moscow's grinding incursions. But when Trump held a lengthy phone call with Russian President Vladimir Putin last week, undoing years of U.S. policy to isolate the Russian leader over his aggression, it was taken as a signal in Kiev and other European capitals that their alliance to contain Moscow was fraying. "We hope that not everything depends on Trump," said Natalia Chori, as she held a Ukrainian flag and protested outside the embassy. "We have hope that Europe will wake up and support us as it should." Trump's engagement with Russian officials and his recent agreement to reopen economic cooperation with Moscow has marked a dramatic about-face in U.S. policy that has rattled leaders in Ukraine and across Europe.
Yo creo que obvio nosotros preocupamos porque tenemos apoyo militar de muchos países. Entonces Estados Unidos es un apoyo muy grande para Ucrania actualmente.
Como norteamericano y chileno, me preocupa que tome la postura de Putin y esté haciendo eco, primero de echarle la culpa a Ucrania por la invasión que causó Rusia, pero que se está creando un movimiento a nivel global. Trump se está aliando con todas las personas equivocadas.
Tenemos esperanza que no todo depende del Trump. Tenemos esperanza que Europa se va a despertar por fin y va a apoyar como debe ser.